Band.
Speaking of States of the Nation, Eamon Fitzmaurice has sat down with Terrace Talk on Radio Kerry, which is the ultimate State of the Nation, and has spoken about his relationship. It's a wide-ranging interview, so the Examiner are picking up on it today. There is no them and us. Kerry boss Fitzmaurice opens up on strained relationships with Kingdom supporters. The headline is a tiny bit misleading in that there's no them and us is what he's saying, but he is saying that there's a breakdown in the relationship. And I mean, I know the Dublin job is really hard, but they're winning at the moment. The Kerry job, when you're not winning everything, and when Dublin are winning everything, is potentially one of the worst jobs in world sport.
It was extraordinary to be in Kerry 2 summers ago on the morning of the Dublin-Kerry All-Ireland semi-final, and every single Kerry person I spoke to was certain that Kerry would beat Dublin. But they were saying it with a tone that it was almost like they were trying to convince themselves. And in the week previous to that, you had columns written by the kind of, with the exception of Mike Quirk, I think, by the way, but with many of the other Kerry former players in the media, and there was an emotion to it, and
a bullishness.
Yeah, but it was also a reaching, and it was if this was the death of civilization if they didn't manage to beat Dublin, and they're really hurting, obviously, and it's not clear. If I was Eamon Fitzmaurice, I would be thinking, I inherited a team here that wasn't great. I took an All-Ireland with them.
Yeah.
And I've got a whole lot of these young players coming through. Yes, I made a really poor decision before the Mayo semi-final replay last year. Was kind of been at that match and before when the teams set out, it was kind of inexplicable why he did what he did, particularly with the personnel he did playing a sweeper and who he chose as a sweeper. And whereas I think the way you play Mayo is you push, but I feel sorry for Fitzmaurice, who I think is an outstanding coach, and who's better than him in Kerry?
Well, I mean, obviously Jack O'Connor happens to be sitting in the background there, winning underage All Irelands. So that's the issue. Like, if there was nobody else in the background, he'd be grand. I tend to agree with you. They won an All Ireland that they had no right to win, which is the classic, brilliant Kerry, cute All Ireland, but they're up against the greatest Dublin team of all time. So, like, what the hell do people want? Obviously, they want to beat Dublin.
Well, it's Dublin. If it was Mayo or Galway or other counties picking up All Irelands, I think Kerry people would be extremely disappointed, but it wouldn't hurt quite as much as what's happening with Dublin, and Dublin creeping ever closer to Kerry and the Roll of Honour. I mean, there's still a sizable gap, but Dublin just pushing on.
If they get a 5 in a row, that'll be the dagger blow, right?
Well, that's the benchmark, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a reason why no GA team has done 5 in a row, presumably. Loads of teams have got to 4 in both football and hurling, and even that extraordinary Kilkenny hurling team couldn't get 5 in a row. And this Dublin team has come very close to the wire in all their All-Ireland finals, and there's no guarantee of 5 in a row. There's no guarantee of 4 in a row. But for Kerry, it actually, it's a bit cruel to say this on one level, but it would actually be amusing to watch what happened in Kerry if Dublin pushed towards 5 in a row.
Well, that's heresy. I do feel sorry for Fitzmaurice in that, like, it feels like they put a clock on when his time is going to be up, and it looks like his time might be up just before that crop of amazing young players reach the point where they're physically capable of doing what they're fully capable of doing, at which point somebody else sweeps in and goes, look at all this great work you've done.
Except I was at the league match between Dublin and Kerry in Croke Park, and you could come away from that game thinking Kerry were 100 miles away, and in the second half they were, but they had lost key players at half-time, Geaney and O'Shea. In the first half, I think there was an awful lot for Kerry in the first 20-25 minutes to take out of it.
Yeah.
And Kerry have superb forwards.
So they're not that far away, is what?
I don't think they're a million miles away.
Yeah, well, it's certainly the appetite has been whet by Fitzmaurice's State of the Nation. Mourinho to wheel cutbacks is the back page headline on the Irish Independent Sport, and then Clermont distanced themselves from Paddy Jackson. This was really, really quick yesterday from the French top 14 side Clermont Auvergne, who, after Exeter Chiefs had distanced themselves from Paddy Jackson, Clermont were straight out and said there's no contact between Paddy Jackson and the club, and no desire on our part to engage his services. That was their Clermont sports director Frank Azima yesterday denying reports that he was interested. We'll talk about this a little bit later on our breakfast menu, the continuing fallout from that. Shelbourne have appointed a new 26-year-old chief executive, so hopefully that's a progressive move in the League of Ireland. Pogba and Sanchez threatened with axe. I don't believe any of this. Do you? Do you believe anything that Jose Mourinho?
I mean, the soccer season's dead. With the exception of for Liverpool fans, the Champions League. it's the fact that everybody's already, from the stories in the papers, already casting forward to next season, who's buying what.
Yeah.
And we're in April.
Yeah. Can Pep Guardiola do a back-to-back? Is he going to sign a new contract, as one of the lead stories in the papers today? And it would only be a 1-year extension on his existing deal. That kind of shows you exactly where it's at. And also, like, whether or not Mourinho is going to drop players. I mean, so he's been a bit pissed off with the team in training. That's how it works, right?
Yeah, it feels like grasping. And Mourinho's position is interesting, though. And the Mourinho-Pogba thing is it's just going to be a soap opera for the next couple of months. Is he going to be sold? Will he not be sold? What will he play him?
I think there's a doomsday clock on Mourinho, and it's like pretty close to midnight at this point on the Man United tenure. Like, unless he gets rid of Pogba this summer, you can't see this finishing successfully, because he hasn't found a way to use him. He doesn't seem to want to use him. It's like, I have this very expensive piece of kit and I don't really want it.
What I don't understand is, he bought Pogba.
Did he, or did the club? Like, we had Andy Mitten on talking about how the Pogba deal was done, and Adidas and Pogba and Adidas and Man United is this kind of perfect Venn diagram. And the Man United executives look and they see his social media following and they go, oh yeah, great. And they check the demographics of it and they go, oh, perfect. That's exactly where we need to sell more shirts to hit some certain side. Like,
I accept that, but I would be astonished if a manager such as Jose Mourinho was willing to put his reputation on the line to spend. Ultimately, it stops with him. He'll be the man who signed.
Exactly. That's definitely how it's going to be explained.
I'd be surprised if he didn't really want him. If he come down and said, no, I don't rate him. He dribbles the ball through the middle all the time, or he does this. He's not my type of player. He doesn't fit in my systems. Did he think he was going to be able to change him?
I don't know. I mean, I'd say probably Mourinho has the ego to go, yeah, of course I can use Paul Pogba. He's good, but taking him off with half an hour left to go at home against the worst team in the league and then losing that game, that's like, he's losing that battle.
Do you think he's sorry he bought Sanchez?
No, because they can sell Sanchez for a lot of money in the summer and suddenly he'll have that extra money to use. Like, you know, so Sanchez is worth 50 million because that's the price of a player like Sanchez. So if they sell Pogba and Sanchez in the summer, he'll have an extra 150 million to sign players. That's how I would be thinking about it if I was him. And also, Man City wanted him, so it's like, no, you can't have him. I don't know. I don't think you can use him either. Certainly you can't have Lukaku and Sanchez, it seems, at the moment, in the same team. So,
and you come down to that question: are you better off without Rashford in the team and Martial in the team? Have United improved?
No, definitely not.
It's hard to say how.
And they would have an identity if they had Martial and even like Memphis has turned into a decent player in France. So, okay, so back to the Irish Times. Leinster's plucky number 7 gets shirty over open side roll. This is an interesting piece from Johnny Waterson. Levy's menace and the margins he plays appear to skirt self-harm. It seems sometimes as if his belligerent, eye-catching tempo moves through the game like a standing invitation for hurt. In Levy's playbook, there is no surrender to uncertainty or second-guessing. Both notions are unwanted imposters in the back row. So, Johnny Waterson very impressed with Dan Levy so far this year. And then GA not convinced that separating club and county seasons would work. We'll come back to this a little bit later on with Paul, because it's some interesting comments from Fergal McGill in the middle of that about how he doesn't think the proposal to split the county and club seasons will actually work. Ulster pair will not play tests again. This is the Ulster CEO who's talking about Stuart Olding and Paddy Jackson. Shane Logan has done an interview on BBC and says that his own job is not in any way at risk, despite the fact that he has presided over Ulster going from one of the best teams in Europe to being completely meaningless, to having no coach next season, no out half, and most of their players next year will not be from Ulster. There's going to be, I think, more Ireland internationals from Leinster playing for Ulster than there are Ulster players playing for Ulster, so it's a complete shambles.
Yes, and Ulster, they seemed for a couple of years there to be on the way to making a really serious team, and the fallout from this trial, it seems to me to be corroding everything that it touches, and it doesn't feel like it's over. No,
it definitely doesn't. And again, we'll do that in a bit more detail a little bit later on. So finally, for now, it's I saw somebody describe it as the Good touch for big man derby last night. Peter Crouch and Andy Carroll, and the Classico. Good touch for big man Classico. Living up to all its expectations. Andy Carroll with a late equaliser for West Ham against Stoke last night. Super sub helps Hammers put nail into Stoke bid for survival. So that's my newspapers. What have you got for us?
Very much the same in the tabloids. The first one is the Star, and it's Jose to wield the axe, where he talks about rotating is not the word to use when it comes to the team he's going to pick, that players who didn't play well against West Brom at the weekend will be dropped if he so decides to do so. So he also...
Manager in managing shocker.
Managing shocker. And Pep's next generation moving on already to talk about who he's going to buy, Fred, Jorginho, and then it's Eamon Fitzmaurice again with a huge championship ahead for Kerry, which is there some championship that isn't a huge championship for Kerry? In the Herald, Jose wants United to fight on the season, 5 games left. He wants them, they're still in the fight for 4th. Yeah. We're really reaching now. Shamrock Rovers slipped to another defeat, Aidan Fitzmaurice in the Herald. A 6th defeat in 12 games for Shamrock Rovers, who would have entered the season with serious problems. And the 2 losses to Bohemians late on were massive losses for Rovers and really, really hurt them.
Yeah. Stephen Bradley is going to be very, very fortunate to keep his job after this, because they thought after the late Bowes winner that was going to be the thing that sent him over the edge. But ultimately, when you lose to Bray, who are bottom of the table, can't be having that.
Yeah, it always, I think it speaks to a deeper malaise within in the club if that's happening. The Irish Daily Mirror reality check, Pep to get 200 million transfer war chest. And then in the rugby, Leinster waiting on 3 players' doubts over Sean O'Brien, Robbie Henshaw and Luke McGrath, which in the middle of a week is probably significant enough to talk about. The Sun, signing in the rain, Pep to sign extension. Has the quality of headline writing dropped a little bit?
Yeah.
Or a lot? And no one is safe, warns Jose Mourinho. Now the Racing Post. Relief for layers as huge Tramore gamble foiled. Bookies are in trouble. Emmett Mullins double. And it's again ruthless, or rely on ruthless Spurs versus Brighton tonight. Now there is one word that I think can never be applied to Spurs, and it's ruthless. Is there a more overrated team, more in English soccer over the last number of years?
Are they not like a nice young team coming through? Okay, first things first. Most of the football journalists who work in London, it appears to me from my personal experience, support Spurs. There's a lot of people who are Spurs fans in the English football media, and so they get a bit more coverage maybe than they're due. But it does seem in Kane and Dele Alli and Christian Eriksen, they have like a group of young players coming through who are really good to watch and play well in big games. You're not having it.
But they're always coming through and being ready to play well in big games, and those 3 players aren't enough. They have a whole load of mediocre players. They're talked up time after time, and they disappoint time after time.